Stephen A. Smith bends the knee and apologized to Jasmine Crockett. So I'm gonna play less than a minute of his 10-minute apology.
As it pertained to me and Jasmine Crockett over the last few days, trying to overcome this stuff, but nevertheless, it is what it is. I'm here right now. I wanted to take a moment because I saw something disturbing in regards to President Donald Trump and how he came at Representative Jasmine Crockett. And I wanted to take this opportunity to attack this issue as it pertained to me and Jasmine Crockett because I personally have had an issue with how things have been misconstrued and misinterpreted. But at the end of the day, I have to own it. And that's what I'm going to do today. And so when somebody says to me, Stephen, rather than point to her and her verbiage and her language and how she talked about the president, what about how he talks? I have no problem with that. I can understand that. And if that is the reason that everybody is in an uproar, that is fine. And I have no problem apologizing to that to my sister because, damn it, I want her to know I don't feel that way about her. Just like I didn't feel that way about Kamala Harris. Just like I don't feel that way about the marvelous, the wonderful, the incomparable, the greatest first lady ever in Michelle Obama, in my estimation, or anybody else. But what we're going to do on this show is understand who the hell I am and how it's going to be as long as I'm doing this show. I have no problem apologizing if I'm wrong. I have no problem apologizing if I've made somebody feel a certain kind of way.
Okay.
Translation, if he wants to keep his show, he's going to retract what he said and be a good Negro, or at least act like it. So he wants to keep his show. He makes a lot of money. They came at me like that. I said, kiss my ass, and I quit. But that was about the 15th or 16th time I quit. They came back, I'm through with you. I did 15 years. So that's what the translation is. I won't do that. And like, what's his name, up in Detroit?
Judge Mathis.
Yeah, he said, you can't get me to believe that he turned down all that money. No, you're a handkerchief head boy who can be bought. You get to turn, you wouldn't turn it down. I would, because it's about principle. And some people just lack the understanding of the value of principle and integrity.
Right.
So I'm not buying it. I know what he probably thinks. And I think Jasmine Crockett is a handkerchief head house mammy from a plantation who is an embarrassment. She tries to act like she's hood. She went to, what was it, a $35,000 a year finishing school and a little private university here in Memphis, Rhodes College.
Yeah.
On North Parkway, right across from Overton Park and the Memphis City Zoo.
So there were several people getting at Stephen A. Smith, right? With the black media, black boule, so-called gatekeepers. And Roland Martin calls him, and I do want to play Roland Martin.
Martin is a damn bought off another plantation Negro down deep in the blue.
Well, he is your frat brother.
I don't care. Sometimes mistakes are made, and he didn't get pledged hard. And when the frats were pledged hard, this guy didn't get over.
Right. Well,
and by the way, they got pledged hard because it was a movement to fight American apartheid 100-some years ago, when the sheriff, if he caught you, would torture you. So the pledging was designed to be tough so you could ferret out the people, weed out the people who would yield to torture. It's like what they do in the military when you're in one of those SOCOM commands.
Well, he criticized Stephen A. Smith not being educated enough when it comes to politics and just exactly what politicians in Congress do. And I do want to play this clip of him trying to lay out Jasmine Crockett's duties and all of the wonderful things that she's doing.
Let's get frank. She is a jackass apporteur, and the whole butthole of an ass. So let's get into it. She's a sellout.
What is the point I'm making here? The point I'm making here is real simple, Stephen A. You literally don't know anything about Congress.
Neither do you.
You know nothing about how the House works.
Well,
you know about basketball, NFL, all sort of stuff like that. You don't know anything about this. You've done no research, Stephen A. You've done no studying. You can't even get the most basic fact correct, which is how many people she represents in the 30th Congressional District. You can't even get that right. And so here's why you get criticized. Because you pop off not knowing what you're talking about. And so you're trying to tell her how she needs to work with Trump when she doesn't work with Trump. In fact, she doesn't even meet with Trump, Stephen A. Trump meets with Democratic congressional leaders. Who is that? House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. That's who deals with Trump. They deal with leadership. So
Okay,
if you're going to criticize...
Stop a second. You claim to have a political science degree. So do I. That is not how it works, because there's always been a give and take under the American system with anybody and everybody elected to either the House of Representatives or previously appointed, now elected to the U.S. Senate. That is one of the things, because some people have spheres of influence way greater than the offices that they may hold. So that's not true. That is crap. Don't even give us that ignorance. Now,
Crockett, for her tone and how she's not doing her job, are you going to tell your audience on Sirius XM, and when you go on News Nation, and when you go on CNN and all the rest of these places, are you going to tell them what she actually accomplished? Are you going to bother actually talking with a voter of the 30th Congressional District? Because I'm one. My dad's one. My mom's one. My sister's one. Her daughter's one. The neighbors are voters. I could get you 100 or 200 or 500 to talk with. This is the problem. Stephen A., you make it easy for people to criticize you.
I don't agree with that. And let him go ahead.
Okay.
And look, we cool. You could text me. I could text you. We can talk. We could communicate. I'm fine with all that. You can give your opinion. You can say, Crockett, her tone is wrong. But I better hear you calling Republicans out. But let's say you don't even do that. That's all. Fine. You can criticize Jasmine Crockett all you want to. But bro, you got to get your facts straight. And you're popping off and running your mouth, and none of your facts are straight. And that's what makes you look silly. And see, had you had your facts straight, I would not have had to do this segment. Because I would have had nothing to work with. But you exposed yourself for your lack of political knowledge. And what's happening is these television bookers are putting you on because you are in quote mode. You say things that go viral, and they get excited by that. So guess what? The bookers at CNN and the bookers at Newsday, that's why Chris Cuomo ain't got no ratings. That's why he pulled Bill O'Reilly out the crypt and got you debating him. We know what all that is, and that's fine. Guess what? I don't care. That's great. But bruh, just do this. If you go on TV, and let me be real clear. When I did First Take 2 or 3 times, when I sat in for Michael Smith on His and Hers, I studied. I didn't come on the air just saying whatever. I brought facts about sports. So if I can do some studying about sports and speak from a factual base, bruh, you need to do the exact same thing. talk about politics. Because if you don't, you're going to get dismissed as a blowhard. And I know you don't want to be seen as just somebody who's full of hot air, ain't no facts backing them up. So do better before you start giving political advice. Call some people. Do some research. But stop saying stuff as factually incorrect. We'll be back.
So that was your frat, bro. So
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. We would have turned him back if he had been on the pledge line that I was dean of pledges for, or when I was pledging, some big brother would have turned him back. But
so here's the key thing that I took away from that.
let's just say that I'm more inclined to agree with most of what Smith said, at least on his first presentation, not this last one, which I think was induced by studio executives, and less inclined to go with what Poppin' Fresh Doughboy here came up with. And I've met him. He's arrogant and he presumes way above the level that he actually occupies. So he's talking about her constituents. Well, let's just talk about that very briefly. And I've mentioned it before. In America, there's a long-standing truism. A constituency gets the representation it deserves. If they've got a fool for representatives, that says a lot about the constituents. So this small constituency down in Texas, which is atypical of the state, elects this wig-wearing, barn-door, eyelash made-up idiot who talks all of this plantation stuff like she is a third-floor bed wench trying to be guaranteed a position as an influential mammy when she starts getting gray in her hair, which, considering the jet black tone of it, looks like it's well dyed or it's a wig. So we don't know. Maybe she's gotten some already. And I think she got infected by the stupid nonsense that permeates Memphis, Tennessee. Maybe she caught it from breathing dust from Mississippi River mud. I don't know, but she's a little boule heifer who comes in trying to perpetrate about what she's about, and it doesn't come through to anybody other than someone that's loyal to that plantation.
I also heard that she may be planning to run for a Senate seat in the state of Texas. And to Roland Martin's point,
she'll have to resign. She'll have to resign her position in the House of Representatives to run, and there is about as much chance of her getting elected to a Senate seat in the state of Texas as proverbial snowball has of surviving hell.
and to Roland Martin's points, what he was making, I just want to push back to some of his points because, you know, he calls himself laying out her duties as a House Congressional representative, saying that her job is to work for her constituents. That's part of her job. The other part of when you are elected into Congress is to help manage the purse, the budget. You also vote on bills. You also are put on committees, different committees that has to do with this country as a whole. So yes, you work for your constituents first, but at the same time, you are also working for this nation, everyone in this nation. So you have a responsibility to all Americans and your constituents, not just your constituents in Texas. Because if you want to just read down her resume of what she's doing for her district in Texas, okay, fine. She may check off all the boxes and they're satisfied with her. But the American people are not satisfied with her. They're not satisfied with her party. And Black people are not satisfied with her behavior antics.
Well, look at Memphis, Tennessee, the 9th district. It elected its first black congressman, Harold Ford Sr., 1974. He retired and turned it over to his son, who quickly got the position, Harold Ford Jr. Harold Ford Jr. was a junior congressman, but he addressed the Democratic Party convention the year before he foolishly retired from that position so he could run for U.S. Senate in the state of Tennessee. He didn't have a chance, but he ran and he didn't get elected. And 20 years ago, a guy by the name of Steve Cohen, gay, white, and Jewish, got elected to represent a district that is 70-some% black, the 9th Congressional District in the state of Tennessee here in Memphis. Over the last 20 years, the only piece of legislation that he introduced was one that required the congressional cafeteria to use paper straws. That's his accomplishment, and he's brought nothing to the constituents that he represents except chaos and an interest that does not match their obvious concerns here living in Memphis with low employment, low education, massive crime, and massive corruption. So if you have a foolish representative, that is indicative of a foolish constituency electing that representative again and again and again. For 20 years, we have got nothing out of Steve Cohen, but they keep electing him. So what's that say? That's like Joe McCarthy. Joe McCarthy, not McCarthy, the one that was the U.S. Senator of ill repute. The one we had here was formerly chairman of the White Citizens Council and Grand Dragon of the Klan. But black folk gave him their block vote for election after election because these same irresponsible, crooked political figures, just like Jasmine Crockett in the Memphis area, kept putting him on their sample ballots after he paid them. So he'd get the black bloc vote, and you have the former Grand Dragon, chairman of the White Citizens Council, and a crazy somebody who was an adopted orphan who had some weird mental problems. And I became his colleague, and myself and the rest of the judges at the time frequently cussed him out and told him he was a damn fool and was crazy to his face. So that's not unusual. And we've got little Boule Jasmine Crockett, as coonish as they get, pushing an agenda that has absolutely no meaning to black folk. Somebody, a black community, well, not a real big one, but significant numbers down in Texas, who are being displaced in the employment market by illegals, who are having their benefits diluted by illegals, who are being jeopardized for criminal and espionage activities by illegals, who are being subjected to organized criminal activities by illegals, and untreatable diseases by illegals that she is supporting. So what's that say about our constituents?
And so just to swing it back to Stephen A. Smith, he basically bend the knee to the Democrat establishment. And he always highlights how he voted for Kamala. So even with that, that's not a flex. He keeps saying that so that he could stay in favor. And it's like, dude, they don't care that you voted for her. They care about what you're saying now. And if you're going against someone black because you're black in the establishment, that is a problem, no matter what wrong or missteps these politicians do. And that's why I would say politicians, they're fair game. I don't care if you're black, green, Jewish, it does not matter. Muslim, you're fair game, because it is my job to make sure and hold you accountable. I don't adhere to you. I don't follow your direction. You are the presenters, the voters, we the people are the forecasters. But we the people, majority of the people don't get that. So, she does not speak for me. There's a lot of politicians that do not speak for me. And this is why I do not support the Democrat Party. At the same time, even though I am a registered Republican, that don't mean everything Republicans do that I also agree with. But I don't trust no politicians because they're all liars. But at the end of the day, I know common sense. And like you said, she does not and has not ever spoken, petition, fight for, or have an agenda that has to do with America first, and especially not Black America at all.
Yeah.
And that's just the Democrat playbook. Like they talk Black, but walk.
They're like
I don't
Al
want
Sharpton. They're like
what can I say with it?
Doughboy.
They talk Black, but the Democrat Party talk Black, but walk rainbow
Let me put it this way.
and illegals.
Let me put it this way. They sound Negro, like plantation Negroes who get a little bit extra portion because they're good plantation Negroes. And they don't work on a plantation that toils for King Cotton. They work on a plantation that toils for Tranny Queen Rainbow. There's a difference.
And illegal.
Methodologies are the same.
Yeah.
And
And
the
illegal.
thing is, the socialist agenda of the Democratic Party matches the agenda of the National Socialist Workers Party. The methodologies are becoming the same. And what is the National Socialist Workers Party? The German acronym is NAZI. That spells Nazi. So they are beginning to echo the economic and social policies with the same political methodologies as the Nazis did back in the 1930s, and we know where that led. And they are accusing Trump of the very things that they used to represent. So remember, when you start talking about fascism, totalitarianism, you start talking about socialism, that was the National Socialists, the Nazis. You start talking about repressing free speech, that's the Nazis. You start talking about gun control, good citizens getting disarmed, that's the Nazis. You start talking about taking away people's rights when it came to being prosecuted by the criminal laws, that's the Nazis. You start talking about cheating on the votes and stuffing the ballot boxes using modern methodologies, that's the Nazis. That's also the Democratic Party. When you start talking about being good Negroes, and that sounds like being good Germans. When you start talking about this group is responsible for your problems over here, you start sounding very much like what? Good Nazis.
So they're the real Nazis and not Trump.
And
I mean,
the other
listen,
thing is propaganda. Tell a lie long enough, loud enough. That's the famous statement of Joseph Joseph Goebbels, Nazi minister of propaganda. That's what we see all day long. Control the means of communications. The Nazis even studied how Hollywood worked, and they used to do intensive research on it. They called Hollywood the best propaganda engine the world had ever seen, and they modeled what they did on it. And now, 80 some years later, here we go again. Hollywood has been spending 50 years corrupting the American system, degrading it, causing it to degenerate and deteriorate and become obsolescent in the world because it gave up this concentration on being strong, self-sufficient, and enterprising for somebody that's weak, emotional, and dependent. See where we go? Because they have a selfish agenda, this rainbow cult garbage. I'm not talking about those who just get their little eroticism on by doing mutual masturbation. But, get your freak on in your bedroom. That's your business. But trying to indoctrinate the children into being sex objects, teach young kids in elementary school sex, to start dealing with trying to convert them so they get taken to the vet and neutered. That's wrong.